Welcome to A Changed Life. This is a podcast about choosing differently, how you think, how you relate, and how you lead yourself. Here we focus on the inner shifts that create real momentum and open up what's possible next. Today's conversation is about emotional secrecy. For all of us, there are things that we say out loud, and there are things that we think privately. But if these two worlds drift too far apart, that's where emotional secrecy begins. This conversation and this concept, emotional secrecy, it isn't about lying, and it isn't about a big betrayal. It isn't even about big secrets. This is about the parts of you that stop being spoken. And today's episode is for you. If you're in a coupleship, if you personally notice that what you think and how you feel is not the same thing that what comes out of your mouth, anyone who feels emotionally isolated, and anyone who senses there's distance inside their own life, because emotional secrecy is not a relationship problem. It's a human pattern. So where does this start? Well, like many things in our childhood, we're not born emotionally secretive. We learn it. And as children, we quietly figure out which feelings are safe, what feelings are too much for the people that we're around, and what feelings make adults uncomfortable. Maybe when you cried, someone said, "Come on, you're fine, it's okay, you're good, you're fine." Or stop being dramatic. Or they tried to make you laugh when you were crying to distract you, to bypass how you were feeling. Or saying things like, "Come on, it's not a big deal." Maybe the way that you were raised, anger wasn't allowed. Maybe sadness wasn't allowed. Maybe if you were needy, there was a punishment. So you learned something very adaptive. If I want connection, I will edit myself. And that adaptation works until it doesn't. So how this shows up in relationships, I want to make this really concrete. A woman in a marriage feels disconnected and she might say, "I'm just so tired." But what she's really feeling is lonely. She doesn't say that, not because she's manipulative and not because she's dramatic, but because she doesn't want to make things worse. So she swallows it. Years pass. The distance grows even bigger. The problem isn't the marriage. The problem is the silence. Or a man who feels ashamed about something in his life. So instead of saying, "I'm struggling," he withdraws. He becomes irritable. He becomes distracted. Not because he doesn't care, but because emotional exposure feels unsafe. That's emotional secrecy, and it quietly reshapes intimacy. So how this may show up personally, because this isn't just a couple's thing. This is a human thing. It shows up when you say you're happy with your job, but privately feel numb and burnt out. You say it's fine, you never started that thing, that dream, that goal, but privately you feel regret. You tell yourself it doesn't matter, it's not a big deal, but it does. And when you repeatedly override your own internal signals, you begin losing connection to yourself. That's where emotional isolation begins. So when does this become dangerous? Emotional secrecy is normal at first. It becomes dangerous when you no longer know what you feel anymore. You minimize your own needs. You live more in performance than in truth. And you wouldn't actually think of the word performance because this has become normal. You feel alone even when you're surrounded by people. And for many individuals, they feel alone when they're around the people that they, quote unquote, should feel closest to. That's the tipping point. And here's the thing, most people don't blow up their life because something was wrong. They blow it up because something was unspoken for so long. So why don't we just be honest? The truth is, honesty feels risky. It threatens connection. It threatens stability. It threatens even your identity. And here's the deeper truth. Emotional secrecy often protects the relationship, but it costs the self. And eventually, what costs the self costs the relationship too. And you can apply this to mother, father, sister, brother, coworker, lover, partner, in any aspect of a relationship. It applies. So what do you do about this? What is the repair for this? It's not a dramatic confession. It's not dumping everything on everyone. You start here. What have I stopped telling the truth about to myself? Not to your partner, not to your boss, but to yourself. Because when internal honesty returns, external clarity will follow. And so it could be very helpful to sit with yourself and go through the big categories of life. And you can insert, what have I stopped telling the truth about in regards to my health to myself? What have I stopped telling the truth about financially to myself? So put in the big rocks of life. Health, wealth, relationships to others, your mental well-being and your mental health, career, connection to something larger, something bigger, your spiritual life. So if you insert each one of those, write it down. Talk to yourself about this. Oftentimes, people don't need to leave a relationship or a job or a situation. They don't need to blow anything up. You just need to stop hiding from your own emotional reality. That's where a changed life begins. If something inside you softened or tightened during this episode, that's not random. That's data. That is information. And emotional honesty doesn't require perfection. It requires courage in small doses. So start small. Tell yourself one honest sentence today, and let that be enough. As always, keep what resonates, leave what doesn't, and keep moving forward. And if you think that somebody in your life would benefit from hearing this, share it with them. As I've told you in other episodes, whether you share actually the podcast link or you share what you learned, it will help deepen your own understanding about emotional secrecy. I look forward to seeing you in the next podcast. If something in today's episode resonated with you, you'll find a link in the show notes to book a free consultation call. Or you can visit elisecraft.com to explore my programs and free resources. Nothing changes until you do. And when you do, everything does. This is a changed life. Not all at once, but for good.